to NASA Explorer School video chat with women of NASA. Welcome from Marshall Space Flight Center, and we have 3 women joining us today: Erica Alvarez, Maui Johnston, and standing in for Monty Roman is Morgan Dabney. I will allow each one of these women to introduce themselves, and then we will start with questions. So Erica, get us started.
My name is Erica Alvarez. I grew up in West New York, New Jersey, and went to Penn State University and studied aerospace engineering. I now work at the Marshall Space Flight Center as a propulsion engineer. Started out working on Space Shuttle main engine, worked on smaller booster engines for bigger vehicles that would take us to the moon or somewhere beyond, and then started working on a small engine to work on the lunar lander.
Hi, I'm Maui Johnston. I grew up in Columbus, Mississippi, and then moved to Bethpage, Tennessee. If you haven't heard of it, that's okay. Nobody really has. It's north of Nashville. I went to Westmoreland High School, then went to Tennessee Tech University, where I graduated with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering and a minor in biology and a minor in chemistry. During that time period, I was a co-op. It was a wonderful experience. I actually worked in the same area as Erica, working on the Space Shuttle main engine turbo machinery. I was able to see a launch, see a Space Shuttle main engine tests, and now I'm working full-time in the Space Systems Department as a dynamic analyst.
Hello, I'm Morgan Dabney. I grew up in Northern California. I moved to Kentucky, just south of Lexington, Berea, Kentucky, when I started high school. I graduated from Madison Southern High School there, and then I went on to Vanderbilt University, where I earned a Bachelor's of Engineering in Chemical Engineering. And then I went to the University of Kentucky, where I got my PhD in Chemical Engineering. While I was in graduate school, I did an internship here at Marshall, and that led me to the job I currently have, which is in the Life Support Systems group. And Life Support Systems is a group that makes sure that astronauts are healthy and happy in space. So we take care of making sure that they have food to eat, clean air to breathe, water to drink, as well as have clothes and those type of things, anything that they need to keep them healthy or happy.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies. Our first question has come in, and the question is, who has been your greatest inspiration in your career and why? And if each one of you could answer that.
Do you want me to go ahead first?
Sure.
I think for me, one of my greatest inspirations has been when I was in high school. We actually had an aerospace class there, and kind of how we're talking today, it was through interactive television. So we would tune in onto a television station, and the teacher would be in another school, and we learned all about just weather balloons, satellites, rockets, planes, how to navigate a plane, how you would go about if you were working in mission control in Houston to support a whole launch, and talking to astronauts and what kind of experiments are done in space. And I think that gave me my first taste of what this world was like here at NASA. And so I was really inspired by my teacher in that class, who pretty much told me that it was something that I can do. Mallory?
My greatest inspiration and my biggest motivating factor is my family. I have a wonderful mother, a very supportive stepfather and father, and my brother is by far the largest motivating factor. He has physical and mental disabilities, and seeing how hard all of my parents, all 3 of them, have worked with him, and seeing the difficulties that he has overcome to get something like a high school degree while he can't drive, while he can't tie his shoes, has really pushed me to be more than just a bystander in my life. I really enjoy pushing myself to the edge, and that is what NASA does with technology. Is pushing the envelope, but it's pushing the edge all the time. I also, at my tiny 400 and something size high school, I had a wonderful calculus teacher. He was more the math teacher. He taught all the honors maths, you would say, and about junior, senior year of high school, he said, we don't have many girls in engineering, and if you can do the math, you should really think about going into engineering. And I was like, well, that sounds good. And then for no reason whatsoever, I thought about doing chemical engineering. And then one of my friends said to me, well, you know, if you do mechanical, you can maybe work for NASA someday. It's like, oh, well, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And then here I am.
And I've had two major influences in my life. The first was my grandmother. My grandmother raised 5 children while she was going to school to be a nurse, and then she worked for many, many years as a nurse. And just seeing her and what she's accomplished, especially in a time where women didn't have a job and raise children, she's really motivated me to make sure that I have both sides of that fence, have a great career as well as a strong family. And the other person that's really influenced me and got me really to where I am now is Mr. Geckerman. He was my 6th grade teacher in Fort Jones, California, and he really turned me on to science. Before that, I had no interest in science whatsoever, and he had us out there building parabolas to try to boil water. He taught us about internal combustion engines. Everything was hands-on, and he really made it very interesting to learn, and even for me, who had never had any interest in science before. So teacher and my grandmother, biggest influences for me.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how old were you when you started the job that you now have?
I think I actually was 21 years old when I started working at NASA. I've been here 7 years now. When I was in college, I did a lot of small satellite work, and so I had my own team, of other students, and we were building our own satellite. And while I was out at Penn State, a recruiter came who ended up being my future boss, came, and I told him all about the satellite project I had been working on and how many papers I had written, and he kind of really liked me and said, do you want to come and work in propulsion? And I said, well, I mean, I've learned a little bit, and when you go to school, they teach you little bits about every single piece, but you're never really an expert in anything. And I said, well, I'm 21 years old, I guess I'll give it a shot, see if I can learn something new. And really, they taught me everything here on the job. And now that I've been here, 7 years or so, 29 years old, I feel like I know so much more than when I first got here. But you don't realize when you're young, there's so many things that can fit into your brain, that you can learn so much and just start from scratch, and they'll teach you everything.
I was also 21. I started my co-op after my 3rd year of school, and it's been an amazing experience. And what Krissa Hall saw in me that she did not see in the other 30 or so people from Tennessee Tech University that applied for that co-op, I'm still not completely sure. But the co-op program, it's a rotating thing, like one semester you're working and then one semester you're at school. So although that caused me to do the 6-year program at school, it's led me to have this full-time job as a dynamic analyst, and I started full-time back in July. So about 3.5, 4 years of experience already.
And I started NASA when I was 27. My internship, I was 25. I was in grad school, of course. And then I got a much later start than these ladies because of graduate school. But I really felt at the end of undergraduate work that I wanted to go a little bit further and go ahead and get that PhD. And so, although it got me here a little bit later, I think it's really helped me, at least in the job that I have, prepare a little bit better for what I'm doing.
Okay. The next question, when you were in grade school, what did you want to be when you grew up, and what is a challenge that made you want to break into a male-dominated field?
Well, I still laugh today because I wanted to be so many different things, and I still want to be so many different things. I think if I can have 10 jobs, I would do it. But when I was in grade school, I knew I really liked volcanoes, and I was like, oh, maybe I can travel around the world and go and study volcanoes. And then I wanted to be a meteorologist, and then I decided, well, maybe I want to do like forensics, like you see on all the crime shows now on TV. But then really I wanted to pick what I thought was the hardest thing I could do, and I was like, well, I want to work at NASA. And so I had all kinds of stickers all over my room, and stars and posters, and I was always lobbying to get a telescope. I never ended up getting a telescope because we couldn't afford one, but I built lots of model rockets and little planes and other things like that, and it just seemed like I was probably too chicken to jump into a volcano. So, I mean, really, if you just pick one thing that you kind of like and that you find interesting, I say go for it, because over time, I've been here so many years, I'm still learning new things every day. So if you have that kind of attitude, I think any kind of field that you jump into, I mean, maybe it's too late for me to be a meteorologist, I don't know, but I'm still hopeful that I maybe could do it one day, so.
Man, I say dream big. When, just like Erica, I had all of these things that I wanted to be. Astronaut, doctor. I was really, really into Jurassic Park. It's like, do you think we really can get that dino DNA and put it in a frog? Maybe. It sounds very possible. I wanted to do and be everything, from in the science realm to painting to writing, everything. And that's the biggest thing right now. Don't lose that. In college, I saw so many kids that they just wanted to get done, graduate, and have a job. They were so exhausted by school. But continue to dream big. I still want to be an astronaut. Who says I can't?
When I was little, actually until I was about 11, I wanted to be a linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. But then, of course, I didn't get the height or the weight. So that dream was crushed, unfortunately. It never happened. But after that, I really wanted to be an engineer. And I love NASA, and like Erica lobbying for a telescope, I just wanted to go to space camp so badly. I could hardly stand it. Couldn't afford it. So I ended up getting to go when I was an intern at 25. I finally went to space camp. And you don't quite fit in the modules the same way at 25 as you might at 7 or 8, but it was a lot of fun. So I've pretty much known most of my life that I wanted to be an engineer and work for NASA.
And we're actually right here, right next to space camp. So when I see all the kids come into space camp, I envy them.
I know.
Because there was a movie called Space Camp, and I just really wanted to go.
Oh, yeah.
See how Morgan just said she knew she wanted to be an engineer probably until junior, senior year of high school. It's like, none of those people that drive trains. I had to have our dean of engineering sat down with me my freshman year at college and explained to me what all the different engineering things do. What do civil engineers do? What do chemical engineers do? What do mechanical engineers do? They really wanted to keep a female in engineering.
Well, since all of you, it seems, are in the engineering type field, was it hard to break into a male-dominated field? Did you find challenges in that, either in school or in your profession? And just any of y'all can answer that.
I know for myself, it's been a little bit difficult because you'll have class with people who don't know you very well, who don't know what you're capable of, and don't know your history and don't know what you've done, that will say to you, oh, well, you only got that interview because you're a pretty little girl. Like, oh, that's awesome, because it's not because I've put in more time with my schoolwork. It's not because I've been president of this or captain of this. You're right, it's just because I'm a girl and they're trying to fill a slot. So that's been something that I've had to do personally, is push that away, to push other people's insecurities away, and really focus on what I'm capable of, and not apologizing for it either.
I think one of the things that has helped for me is that when you do go to school, you will, I don't know if it's the same this way anymore, but when I was in school, there weren't as many females in the College of Engineering or studying in your classes. But over time, kind of like Mallory said, you know, people realize what your capabilities are, and then once they do, they don't really see you that way anymore. So it may be an instantaneous thing that they think when they first meet you, but then as soon as they start working with you, they say, oh man, you know, Erica's a really good engineer. They don't think of me as just a female. And one thing that I think helped me was I had a female mentor who is now a chief engineer of the whole Space Shuttle main engine program. She makes all the decisions and gets to go to every launch and say, you know, that the engines are good to go for launch. And I think when you have a senior engineer that's a female in those positions, and you're able to see how they carry themselves and how they operate day to day and how well respected they are, you really realize that, you know, this is very doable.
It's a little bit of a catch-22 of how do you get women in engineering? Well, you have to have women in engineering, and they have to be there. They have to be accessible to children. I'm a huge advocate of giving back to the community and giving back to the different groups. I volunteered with Engineering a Future at Tennessee Tech University. It's directed just towards 5th and 6th grade girls, and having them interact with women in the engineering industry and trying to go ahead and provoke them to be like, think about engineering, think about what you can do with science. Everything that you place your hands on, an engineer has had something to do with. They are building dreams. They're not just coming up with ideas. They're not just making sure that motors run. They are making sure everything fits together.
Well, the next question, what's one of the most fun things that you have done at NASA in your job?
Morgan, you want to?
I would love to answer this. I work in the Life Support Systems group, as I mentioned before, and as part of that, we like to use real human fluids. So we collect human urine, we collect human sweat, any kind of human metabolic waste that you might have, we collect and we use to test our technology. And one thing that we like to do, and we've done a couple tests since I've been here, usually in the summertime, you get to go in, we have this big tank, a module like you would see on space station, and there's exercise equipment in there. You get to go in and you exercise for an hour, and NASA collects your sweat. And I am so proud to have donated my personal sweat to NASA and to the technology that we have. And also, weekly, you come in and they give you a cup and you go provide your urine sample, you bring it back in and they test your urine. And so our metabolic wastes every day go to testing the technologies that are here. And that, to me, it might sound a little gross to some people, but to me that is, my urine has produced technology that'll be on space station someday.
Success.
Success. Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite part of your job?
I think the favorite part of my job is just seeing something from the beginning all the way to the end and feeling like you've been part of that and you've added to it, and you've it really feels like a big little achievements in the end. When you go and you watch a launch, it feels like a big achievement. I think since I've been here, just seeing one bolt or one little piece turn into a bigger part and see that all built over the course of a few weeks, and then you take that part and they ship it from one place to Florida to another place in Mississippi, and then they start building an engine up from beginning to end. Not many people can say they've seen an engine built from beginning to end, but I have. And then I've seen it rolled into a test stand and seen it tested and inspected and taken on a truck over the Space Center, watch that be installed, and then watch the launch. Once you see something like that and you know that you were a part of it, it just blows your mind. But even to just watch one engine be tested, and you can't imagine how brave these astronauts must be to sit on a vehicle with 3 of these engines and 2 solid rocket motors, and then you watch the launch and you see, how just the sound of it moves your shirt back and forth, and you realize the power of it. I am thinking I am such a little person in this big, picture, but it's just something that I don't even know how to describe.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing to go to a shuttle launch, and I was able to watch it from the Banana Creek viewing site, which is across the water, and it was a night launch, and there was like a full moon, and it was beautiful. And it goes off, and or at least I was screaming. I didn't even realize it. A few weeks back when this last launch happened, I was standing around watching it on TV, and some girls were talking about it, and it's like, okay, can you actually feel it? And I'm like, honestly, you're so pumped up on adrenaline that you don't know if you're actually feeling the solid rocket boosters or if it's your own heart. It's an amazing experience to be a part of.
I would say you can definitely feel it. I've been closer, and you can really feel it. Yeah.
And I would say the greatest part of my job, I think, is going in every day knowing that I'm working on something that no one else in the world is working on, that I am making advancements that are the cutting edge of technology. I'm contributing to that. My own mind is thinking about these things, seeing them, and changing them for the betterment of both NASA, which in turn betters the country, and in every way that our technology is useful to us and to everyone that that supports us. So just being part of that is really a big deal for me.
All right, the next question. What kinds of things do you like to do outside of work, such as hobbies or other interests?
Well, I like to do a lot of things. I like to do too many things. Like I actually still, if it's a kind of a snowy day, like we're snowed in, and like you guys stay home from school or we stay home from work, I'll kind of break out a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and I'll get focused on it for about 2 days and just get completely absorbed by that. So I still do those quite a bit. And then last week I ran a half marathon, and I ride a bike, and now I've been taking swim lessons and trying to improve my swimming so I can get to, a triathlon. And Morgan here has seen me try to play softball. It's a terrible thing. I try to avoid it. She actually taught me how to throw. It's a good, decent throw now. But I try to be active and go out and do things, and I also do a lot of community outreach and a lot of things with schools. And but for the most part, you do have to balance your work life with spending your energy either exercising, and I like to go out and participate in events for like the Salvation Army and other things around town to kind of give back. So
yeah, I enjoy writing, as I really enjoy creative writing. And I have 2 dogs and a cat in my 1-bedroom apartment. It's almost a zoo. I also have been volunteering with a robotics team with a high school, so that's been interesting. And whenever any volunteer type stuff comes up, I really enjoy doing that.
I like to spend time. I have almost a 1-year-old. His birthday is next week, so I have a little boy, and he's right now just about the center of my entire world. I spend a lot of time with him. I also play softball, as Erica pointed out.
Very good softball player.
Thank you very much. I like to play a lot of sports, actually. Anywhere I can be physical and active outside, I really enjoy that.
Great. Question, how many vehicles are launched in a year?
That's an Erica question.
Yeah, there's several vehicles. Right now, the one that we can think of the most is the space shuttle, and you're talking maybe 3-4 launches, a year. There's also a lot of what we call the expendable launch vehicles, which are the vehicles that the Air Force and other agencies use to go and launch satellites and payloads that there are no humans riding on them, but there are lots of big telescopes and things like that. And so there's several launches from that. Also, we'll have a few experimental launches that, as we're trying to develop a new launch vehicle, or right now how we have certain companies in industry and commercial industry that are trying to develop their launch capability, they'll have experimental launches, throughout the year. And then that doesn't count all the out at Wallops Space Flight Center. They actually launch a lot of small sounding rockets that have other smaller experiments on them. So overall, I would say there's dozens of launches. If you want to go to the NASA.gov website and look up the KSC, the Kennedy Space Center launch schedule, you can go and look that up. And if you happen to be around Cocoa Beach or near Orlando, Florida at the time, I think it'd be a good opportunity to go in and try to catch one of the bigger launches out there in Florida.
Have you ever felt discouraged while you're at your job?
I can try to answer that. At least in my job, I do a lot of testing, and you set up a test and it's going to last, say, a month, and you test every single day, and something breaks or something goes wrong. That can be really discouraging, especially if you have multiple days where things are going wrong. And I think anybody in any job has days that you feel discouraged. Mm-hmm. The blessing here at NASA is that you're almost expected to have those moments. You're never going to succeed all the time. Nothing is always going to work, and so it's part of your job, and you just keep going. And when it finally does work, it's that much more wonderful because you had all those obstacles in the way. So definitely, we have discouraging days. We just keep going.
Yeah, I would say for myself, it gets discouraging when I'm working on a project and I just don't know enough. I just don't know enough. And I will have to have one of my friends, that's also my coworker, he'll tell me, he's like, Mallory, don't worry, Ron has 20 plus years of experience. Doug's been out here 15, 20 years. I've been out here about 3 or 4 years, and I've been taking graduate classes. You've been here 6 months. You're not expected to know everything right now. So that can get discouraging, but then I just got to push through and try to learn more.
Yeah, I think nothing ever goes perfectly. If not, it would be easy. And I've been in tasks where I've worked something maybe 2 or 3 years and then felt towards the end that, maybe we weren't going to get the budget to continue on with the project, and I had invested, several years and months in working on this task. But lots of times I think I find myself that if I get too caught up in being discouraged, then everyone else around me will start to be discouraged. So I don't give myself too much time to kind of, just mope around. I just keep on going. So
Gotta bounce back.
that's what you have to do. Yeah.
Okay, great, ladies. Are any of you looking to work on the space station?
Anybody?
Well, actually, the technology that I'm developing right now for my job, it is to try to recover oxygen from carbon dioxide. And we are working on technology right now that, with a little more development, we can actually send up to space station and have it operate up there. Now, the intention is not that we need that necessarily for space station, but that we'll need it if we go to the moon or to Mars or any place other than the space station. So we have to be able to test it before we want to use it for long-term flight. So I may get the opportunity to work with space station, and I hope that I do in that sense.
Yeah.
If someone wants to fly me up there, I am more than ready to go up there. Ready's probably not the right word, but I would definitely go up there.
All right, this one is for Erica. Did you launch the satellite that you made?
The satellite that we made actually was part of the University Nano Satellite Program. And in preparation for it, we did some installation on some smaller little satellites that went up on a weather balloon. And that was cool, seeing the smaller one just kind of go up on a string on a giant balloon with a dozen others, and then we tracked it on GPS, and we were able to follow it in vans in the middle of Colorado and let it land and kind of pick it up and get all the data from it. The bigger one that we were working on, I was just there for about a year or two when we were still in what we call the preliminary design review, which is the preliminary layout, the sizing of it, picking the materials, kind of picking the instruments and starting to gather everything for it. I have gone back and talked to a lot of the teachers at Penn State, and they're still continuing on with that work. I think in the end 1 or 2 schools were selected, and I don't think our school was selected to fly. So there was only a few schools that were chosen to keep on building it and flying it. So unfortunately, I didn't get to see it fly, but it was going to collect some good data. So I wish it had.
Okay, the next question. What are your work hours?
Work hours?
Well, it depends on what testing happens to be done, but normally it's about 7:30 to 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Of course, there's lunch and those types of things in the middle, but usually it's 7:30 to 4:30.
I'd like to do more of a 9 to 6, but I just hate traffic. I'd rather get in later and avoid the morning traffic and leave later and avoid the afternoon traffic. So, but it's a really flexible schedule.
I think I'm more of an 8:30 to 5:30 kind of day. For the most part, there'll be some days where I might stay later just because I tend to get real focused at the end of the day, and it gets nice and quiet when people are gone, and just get to put in a lot of work at that time. Once in a while, doesn't happen as often. You might have to come in on a Saturday or Sunday if it is to support a launch or a test or a major design review, but it's not very common, and it's not something that's expected that you're supposed to do every weekend. But realizing that if you're kind of the going force for something really expensive that's going on, you might have to work a weekend or two here or there. But for the most part, it's a normal 8 to 5, 8:30 to 5:30 kind of schedule.
And this question is for Morgan. Will you encourage your son to pursue STEM or science, technology, engineering, and math when he's old enough?
I will encourage my son to do whatever he wants to do with his life. If he wants to be an engineer, if he wants to major in mathematics, I will support that 100%. If he wants to write literature, I will support that. I love him, so I want him to do whatever makes him happy.
And the next question is, are there any other NASA centers that you would like to work with that relate to your job?
I'm going to address this question first. The Life Support Systems group is very fortunate in that we have a number of centers that work on the project. Kennedy Space Center, Johnson Space Center, Ames Research Center, Glenn Research Center, Langley, and then also Marshall all work on life support systems. And as part of my job, I have had the opportunity to work at both Johnson and Kennedy, and that was an incredible experience to get to do that. I spent 6 weeks at both of those locations, but in not so much a daily work effort, but yearly we work with all of those constantly. I mean, there's always telephone calls and emails getting exchanged. So at least in life support systems, there's a lot of cohesion and working together with different groups for life support. And I would love to go to all the other centers as well, but I have had the opportunity to go look at both of those.
I think for me, I spent about 4 to 5 months at Stennis Space Center in Mississippi, where we saw the rocket engine testing, and that was a great experience just to see all different types of rocket engines tested. You see the hardware, you see what we call smoke and fire, sometimes in places where you're not supposed to see it, but you know, it's there. Kennedy Space Center is just a place that's in awe. If you ever get a chance to go and do a tour there, you get to see all the big rockets and all the vehicles that have flown up, and lots of mission patches and logos. But I think for me, the only place that I haven't been that I would love to go is the Johnson Space Center. For me, I've watched the movie Apollo 13 a dozen times, well, more than a dozen times. I love it. We've had the head of mission control during the Apollo 13 mission, Gene Kranz, come here and talk about what his experience was like when he was running mission control. It was a guy in the white vest, you know, Ed Harris in the movie, and he was kind of talking the whole team through it and telling them, you know, bring me a solution, and I don't want problems. I want you to tell me how we're going to get this crew back. And I think just being able to go and see what that environment is like and see how they communicate with the astronauts and how they run all the missions and do all the operations side of things is something that I'd really love to do one day. So if anyone from work out there is hearing, send me to Johnson for a little while.
All right, the next question. What advice do you have for high school students wanting to get into NASA?
Be your own advocate. Go out there. Be your own teacher. That's a huge thing. Continue to learn. Get on the NASA.gov website, and there's a lot of opportunities for internships, even in high school. Go into a career that is already kind of set up to work with NASA. A lot of engineering. You're some in the biological sciences, and then just keep pushing it. If it's something you want to do, keep pushing it and going after it, and tell people your dreams and tell them what you hope to do, because they might know somebody. They might be able to get you in contact with somebody and say, oh, well, I've got a friend, or oh, you should talk to this person because they're over the interns or they're over the co-ops.
And something else that you really want to do is to really take every opportunity that comes your way. You know, there might be some little things that don't seem like they would be much, but like Mallory was saying, if you know, it might put you in contact with somebody, or you know, you might learn something that you're going to need later on. Just every opportunity that comes your way. Don't pass up anything just because it seems menial or uninteresting. Really go for it.
And one thing you may not realize is there are a lot of local universities close to maybe where you live now that have some link to a NASA center nearby. And while I was in high school, every summer I went to a different university. I didn't pay for it. It was completely paid for by NASA or by the university. And I, you know, dormed there for a few weeks in the summer. This is while I was in high school. And they hooked us up with other students that were studying in the astronomy department or the aerospace engineering department. And I got to shadow them and learn what their job was like and learn what their classes were like. And then during the day, they would give us lots of workshops to build things related to NASA and learn all about NASA careers. And so if there's something that you're really interested in like that, you'd be surprised how many programs are out there at local universities. So you might want to tie up with them and see if they have something that's already available. Usually it's just you fill out an application, you write an essay, you send it off in an envelope, and you'd be surprised, you may be selected. And like Mallory said, if you go on nasa.gov, on the education website, there's a link for students, and you can go in there and learn about all different programs, or maybe talk to a science teacher and have them look up some of the programs that are there for educators, and just apply. I mean, you never know. It doesn't hurt. It's just a stamp, just apply and see what happens.
And just because you're turned down once, that's not the end of the world. I'm sure all of us have stories about where we have failed, how we haven't been accepted to something. If it's something you really want to do, keep pushing and ignore what other people say. Take their comments as criticism and look to where you can improve, but keep pushing yourself.
Okay, thanks. Do you collaborate with other workers at NASA?
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Every day, constantly. I think she was saying that just being here such a short amount of time, you don't know everything, and I've been here 2.5 years, and obviously I don't know even close to everything that I'm going to need to know, and so you have to work with others to get the information that you need, or to find something that you might need. Every day you have to work with the people that are around you in every setting.
Yeah, I think in order to have a good team that's going to build a good, strong product, everyone in that team has to know what the other person is doing at the same time. And some of you out there may make a good systems engineer one day. And what a systems engineer is they come in and they take all the different pieces that kind of go together to make one unit or one product, whether it be a satellite, whether it be a rocket engine or a vehicle. And you'll find that a lot of what these people are meant to do is to go in and make sure that everyone is collaborating and everyone is talking and everyone is doing their part, and that there's no miscommunications and everyone is on the same page. And you realize how important that is as you're working something as complicated as what we do here, that it's critical that everyone just be together as one unit.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time and need to close up this channel. But thank you very much for watching this NASA Explorer Schools presentation of Women at NASA.